Well, looks like it's rolling. Hello, my name is Michael, and I have been an ESL teacher in Busan, South Korea, and also in China, in Shenzhen and Zhengzhou. I'm currently located in Texas. I'm out at the beach here along the Gulf of Mexico, and a lot of people ask me, how do you do a leak down air brake test for a CDL license? Well, first of all, you should know it's probably dangerous to listen to me, even though it's common knowledge, because I've never had a CDL. I did drive a truck briefly one semester in college, one day a week, driving meals and food around for a campus alumni restaurant. And I also, one summer, in order to pay for college at UW-Madison, I drove a delivery route with an automobile, picking up and delivering photo finishing. So both of those jobs were with passenger driver's licenses. Now, if you're like me, you're middle-aged or older. To be honest, I'm an older person, and you're wondering, how am I going to support myself, in retirement? So this is common knowledge. How do you do the leak down air brake test in order to get a CDL license? One, you build pressure to a maximum pressure, and you listen for the air release between 120 and 140 psi. Two, you want to make certain that the tractor and trailer brakes are released. Three, you want to turn the engine off, which I think is always a good idea, so that you don't trash yourself in a traffic fatality accident. So you want to turn the engine off, but you want to leave the key in the on position. Next, you want to hold down the service brake, hold the service brake down, and wait for the air pressure to stabilize. The next step is leaks. You want to explain and demonstrate when you're trying to qualify for a CDL that you'll hold the service brake down for 1 minute and see that the pressure does not drop more than 4 psi and listen for leaks. You may use the cell phone if you do not have a watch. If you don't have a timing device, you have to count out loud. So you have to hold and count for full minutes, or you might not receive credit with your trucking instructor. Now, as for the alarm, you want to explain and demonstrate that by turning the low air warning system off, that a buzzer or light or alarm or something like that will sound at or before the pressure reaches 55 psi. My notes to myself in my typewritten notes here are low air at 55 psi. Then you want a button to pop out. You want to continue to turn off the air. The buttons will pop out and the spring brakes will engage around 40 psi. Well, since I've never had a CDL license, I'm just suggesting this as something you can look at from time to time as a way of supplementing your income. I've seen some bald spots and gray hairs out there. By the way, I did cut all my hair off because the last time I went to a barber was in 2019, before the pandemic hit. And today is approximately the middle of September. It's a Sunday, 2022. So I haven't been to a barber since 2019. I've found it easy to use the scissors, clip, and shave my own hair off. So I was at a truck driver school, and after several days I decided to leave. I wasn't convinced that I'm not a scatterbrain person, that I have a photographic memory, that I can immediately memorize all of this. I do have a temporary CDL learner's permit from the state, and I also have a valid passenger license, but I was concerned also about my eyesight, getting older, and I have seen a lot of white hairs, bald spots, young men, middle-aged, all different types of people attempting to learn semi-truck driving. Let's remember the difference between a one-piece truck and a passenger license, and a truck with two or three trailers that's a semi-truck that needs a CDL license. Or let's say a school bus and a semi-truck where you're hauling freight. So I did observe that I thought my eyesight wasn't the greatest at night, so I'm still thinking about this. But as long as I have it, I thought I would pass it along. So once again, the leak down air brake test, build pressure to a maximum, listen for the air to release, which everybody's heard around 120, 140 psi. If you're driving a car out in the street, you can even hear that. Make sure the tractor and trailer brakes, the front piece is the tractor and the back thing where you're hauling the freight is the trailer, that both of those are released. Turn the engine off, but leave the key on. Hold the service brake down and wait for air pressure to stabilize. As far as leaks are concerned, that's probably with an older truck something you're looking for. You want to hold the service brake down for 1 minute and see that the pressure does not drop more than 4 psi, and listen for leaks. You may use, it names various devices here that I said before, timing device, Android phone, cell phone, whatever. As for an alarm, I do have a notes to myself here, the low air pressure at 55 psi. You want to fan off the air. The low air warning system will sound and before the pressure reaches 55 psi, which apparently is too low. And then finally, you want to check for your button pop out where your spring brakes engage at 40 psi. So these are just some light notes, just part of the whole process. And as I said, you know, maybe for some folks, this will make you feel a little more comfortable to know that there's other people around who share the same obstacles that you have or who have the same worries and concerns. I'm a little concerned up at my age about my eyesight, even though I'm going to have to do something to earn an income to support myself in the retirement years. And I'm also concerned about my memory. As I mentioned, I do not have a photographic memory. I'm scatterbrained. So far, all the people I've met, and so far in this process, where they're training you out of truck driver schools, a lot of them remind me of TV heads or TV personalities, where they seem to have good memories, sound memories, photographic memories. So, if you happen to know of any shortcuts or anything, you can contact me. I have a channel at Michael Kajowski channel. It's on YouTube. So you just, you look up YouTube in your browser. Then in the YouTube browser, you type Michael Kajowski channel. And it's Michael Kujawski and channel. They can be separate words. And you get some of my videos. I recently, the past month, placed over 20 videos at my channel. Now, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about this truck driving stuff. When I did driving a passenger car back in the 1970s, I noticed I had about one close call a day, usually in the late afternoon or evening rush hour traffic. I did an automobile route of the entire southeast section of Wisconsin, from a photo finishing route, picking up and delivering photo finishing before digital cameras and before the drugstores developed the film, picking up and delivering photo finishing from the downtown plant in Milwaukee, going down to almost to the border of Illinois, and all the way over west to Beloit, back up to Janesville, and back to Milwaukee. I did have another route once that I did with my automobile also, where I delivered books to white-collar professionals, and unfortunately I couldn't support myself. Not enough of them bought them, sets of encyclopedias. I've had a lot of jobs, like a lot of people, where the employer takes it for granted that you use your own automobile. So I've had writer jobs, freelance writer, and so on, where the employer just, they pay you some mileage money and or some gas money, and they just take it for granted that you brought your own automobile. I don't know if I can remember everything. I've been on other jobs where now it is quite a contrast to Asia. Part of the reason I'm on here is I've met truck drivers teaching English in foreign countries, including Asia. And I've met people who do other things, on airplanes, traveling. I've met like maids or nannies or whatever who travel on airplanes to different countries to watch a family's children and teach them when they're younger and so on. In my case, I've been lucky in that I've taught at the 3 different age levels, the young toddlers, I've never done kindergarten, and also the elementary school, middle school, high school, and university. Of course, the university students are the easiest, and you're saying, what does this have to do with truck driving? I've met truck drivers teaching English in foreign countries. One man had had enough of it in the city of New York. He was a new driver. I think he did it for 6 months or a year, and he ended up in Beijing teaching English up there. One of the differences is when you're in foreign countries, my father explained to me when I was a kid, some of them don't have all the soft, beautiful green farmland that the United States has. Some of them have hard land where they can build subways and they can harvest rice. And so there's a lot of mass transit, like in Asian countries. I think Americans have an inferiority complex about it. They have a lot of public buses to stay upstairs in the sunshine. They have a lot of subways underground and a lot of walking, so you can get some weight off walking around. If I were doing a delivery route, especially if I were traveling a lot, I would not be afraid to take long walks to keep weight off. And I'm concerned about all that time in the cab behind the steering wheel. This country is filled with overweight people. I'm certainly obese myself. By the way, I'm at my highest weight of all time and my oldest age of all time. I'm much heavier than I've ever been in the past. I normally return to Milwaukee from China or Texas weighing 230, and just riding a bike around I could get down to, let's say 220 in a month or two. And if I really worked hard, I once came back from Busan, South Korea, and up in Seoul for a month. I came back from there once at 195, which is the weight you're supposed to be if you're 6 feet tall, not taking your older age into consideration. Well, obviously we take that, as you get older, your body wears out, your metabolism slows down, and you take that into consideration. So, these are thoughts going through my head, sitting behind a steering wheel all day long, watching your waistline grow or feeling hungry or whatever, seeing some of the beautiful sights you can see traveling around the United States, sleeping in that bunk area. If I were back there, I would certainly bring my own pillows and blankets and stuff. I would not just try to nap or doze back there. By the way, a tip: if somebody criticizes you about sleeping, it says in all the literature they want truck drivers to sleep. They don't want them out there with insomnia. There are a lot of different vocabulary words: nap, doze, sleep, slumber, deep slumber. Those phrases all have different meanings. I mean, obviously, if your head is wobbling on your neck, you're going to have to pull over to an interstate rest stop and get some deep slumber. If you have a lot of energy and you've been eating, let's say, candy bars, chocolate bars, then maybe you'll feel like continuing driving. But they have all sorts of regulations nowadays and rules. If you're out there and you happen to know of any shortcuts, this is my problem. I started this stuff over 10 years ago, just looking into it. And obviously, if I could memorize the whole thing, the CDL test, in one day, well, then it's worth it for me to do that. But to spend like 10, 11, 12 years trying to memorize how to do a leak down air brake test or something like that, well, that is obviously ridiculous. So I am letting you know there's other people out there like you know, maybe you're middle-aged or older, and you're wondering that that planet is so heavily populated, and it's so polluted, and it's so filled with traffic and congestion, and you know, the pandemic and all the other problems. You're wondering how this stuff is going to work out. So I am giving you a little feedback here. I was, you know, out doing security at night, and some people suggested truck driving, and some people advised against it. The first time it came up with me was way back when I worked in the mailroom at Harley Davidson in the 1970s at their downtown plant in Milwaukee. I made a mistake. I should have stayed there. They offered me a permanent full-time job. They felt I was too smart for the mailroom, so that I'd split time. I'd do the mailroom 1/3,